we are a worker-owned cooperative, so it means that each person working here has a stake in the company and has a stake in the business.
People have decision-making power when they become collective members and can decide in terms of wages and all the other kinds of issues that the owners make.
There's some notion that workers being involved in the ownership of these businesses will cultivate a sense of belonging and that it's theirs and produce workers that are more efficient, that will enjoy their work more, feel like they have a stake in it, give them more of a sense of integrity, and give them some direct financial rewards. What's unique about the Cheeseboard, or one thing I think that is unique, is that everyone's paid the same wage, whether they've been here 20 years or 2 months.
Our benefits package includes health insurance for workers and their dependents. We also offer ourselves 4 weeks of paid time off per year. That's also based on the number of hours you work. In terms of health insurance and the flexible spending plan, profit sharing, paid time off, I would say that it would be difficult to find this benefit package doing the same work anywhere else.
One of the things we were able to do is, about 15 years ago, is purchase some land up in Mendocino, and just raw land, and put in a well, and we put in electricity, built a cabin, and now it's there for all of us to use. This is something none of us could have done individually, but as a group, we're able to do something significant.
It's quite an amazing place. How we help the homeless here and women's shelter and everything with baking, the donation we do, it's quite an amazing place that it goes beyond what you see these walls.
We call ourselves a collective, and you also hear the term worker cooperative. And the definition I use is a collective is a worker cooperative that has no hierarchy, has no management. How do we make decisions? There's many levels of decisions. There's the decisions that happen on the spot. You just make them yourself. And you might check with the person next to you, do you think it's okay if we put this in the window? And then there's decisions which might seem a little bit more, and you say, well, let's take a shift vote on that. Let's see what everyone thinks on the shift. Do you think we should sell this at full price? They seem kind of small. And then you ask the shift, and then you decide then. So there's different levels, and then there's the bigger policy decisions where we have a monthly meeting where we sit down and we hash it out.
The way we make decisions is through consensus, and I'm all for it. It's an interesting process because oftentimes what happens is that the minority will triumph. And every so often, a decision is made and it's like you stand back and say, wait a minute, how come we didn't decide to do this thing? Because, 18 out of 25 people wanted to do it and there were, 7 who didn't. And oftentimes it's a certain sensitivity to a minority of people who might feel really, really strongly about something. When you are in the minority and you do vote no on something that most of the group wants, there's a certain responsibility that you have towards the group, which is to be able to articulate and explain yourself. And that's really difficult. And you have to feel safe, and you have to feel loved, and you have to feel respected.
When I speak to my friends and family, and you sit around, you kind of have this sketchy outline of other people's work situations just so you can tell each other gossipy stories. And inevitably, we'll get to my little story about work and the problems posed. And everyone always likes to give a lot of free advice and stuff. And they've gotten comfortable enough with the idea of how different collectives are that what happens is I say, well, this happened the other day. And there's this kind of pause, and someone will start to say, well, shouldn't you? Well, no, I can see that wouldn't work. Because the structure is so fundamentally different.
I am a manager. I'm trained as a manager, so I'm used to giving direction and having people follow it. So for me, it's been a whole nother experience to come into a group and not do that, but to still be able to see a big picture and get the group involved in that so that the job itself moves forward and the bread gets baked and you know, the flour gets ordered and the cheese gets cut, all the things that need to be done.
Ownership means you walk by and there's a paper floating in the sidewalk, you got to pick it up. You don't think, am I working or I'm not? You know, did I throw it or I didn't? And when you look at the overall picture, you see, wow, everyone has something unique to contribute, but on the overall, we're all responsible of the place.
In the number of years that I've been here, there have probably been 4 or 5 people who have been asked in one form or another to leave. Some of those people would probably say, yes, I was fired. Some of those people would say, well, I just quit because you know, it just wasn't working out for me. Each one of those situations was very painful for me because I actually like everybody that has come through this place.
We own this together. We're part of this business together, and it's hard to say to someone, gee, you're not working out. When they're your equals, they're your peers, they're your friends too.
It's very difficult because none of us feel like we have the right, really, to say to someone else, you know, this is my decision. I have the power, you know, over your life. We're all very hesitant in that way, in the same sense that we don't believe in a boss having that power over us. We don't feel like we want that power over anybody else.
Almost everyone I know is so used to working in a hierarchy, and it has so much ingrained itself in, it seems like, the structures of their brain that they seem to just be exhausted at the thought of actually having to tackle non-hierarchical decision making. And some days I feel exhausted as well. It is worth it. It's worth the exhaustion, it's worth the occasional frustration. Yeah.
In any kind of a business, there's always the premium jobs and the dirt jobs. And theoretically, in a collective, in this collective especially, everyone is going to do all of the jobs. That's the theory. Everybody's going to work out front as a clerk. Everybody's going to sweep the floor at the end of the day. Everybody eventually is going to get a turn at doing the books. In practice, there are people who fear mathematics, for example, and therefore don't really want to do the books. There are people that would just like to sit in the back or stand in the back and bake breads and not wait on customers in the front.
With time, when you've shown that you can do several things or you're good at certain things, like many of us, we get to create our own little habits and niche.
I really like waiting on the customers. I do it hour after hour after hour, and I don't seem to tire of it. The customers are so enamored of us. When relatives come from out of town, the Cheeseboard is on their tour.
I'm obsessed with cheese. Cheese is wonderful. Cheese is fabulous. People should not be afraid to eat cheese. It's a wonderful, sensual thing. It's milk's leap to immortality. Cheese, people, cheese.
American cheddar is my favorite kind of cheese. This is now my new favorite.
What kind is it?
What kind is it?
Bel Paese he likes. Italian Bel Paese.
Yeah.
I have Parskim mozzarella today, but I'm also a big brie eater, and we use goat cheese a lot. We use a lot of cheddar, English farmhouse cheddar, and a lot of Parmesan. We bulk Parmesan Reggiano because we do a lot of Italian cooking.
One of the jobs I enjoy doing most is working what we call the Baxter oven, which is a big walk-in oven. And so you're baking a variety of breads in that oven and prepping the breads before shaping them and putting them in the oven, and then watching them come out and prepping them for sale because they come directly from the oven to our customers.
But I come here every morning. I'm addicted to these scones.
Scones and the cheese bread, and then sometimes we get baguettes. The baguettes are good.
The scones and brioche, you like the baguettes too, don't you?
Yeah.
We're not white bread people, and these people are just the best here.
What is your name?
The Arizmendi Cooperative is in a way, a spin-off of the Cheeseboard Cooperative. And the way it came to be is that several people who worked at the Cheeseboard, plus a retired college professor and a lawyer who was interested in cooperative development, came together and decided that they wanted to replicate the Cheeseboard. The Cheeseboard itself didn't want to start a second store.
We don't want to get a lot bigger. We don't want to keep expanding. We don't want to go the traditional route where you just get bigger and bigger and expand.
We're helping to help other collectives. You know, right now we're helping with Arizmendi's, and to get the idea that instead of being Cheeseboard 1, 2, and 3, that we help other collectives individually.
They sort of spawned us and formed us, and now they're sending us off to do our work, which is based on their recipes and their principles.
Cooperatives don't have a reason to try to expand and take over the world. They're about creating a community and increasing the benefits to the members of that community. The Cheeseboard has been really generous and very supportive of the idea to try to create opportunities for democratic work for other people, not just be satisfied with their own position.
We were chosen, of course, by the members of the Cheeseboard that are forming this group, and none of us really knew each other. The first time we met was when we had been picked, and we all sat in a room and looked at each other and kind of wondered how this could all possibly turn out. And we think of it almost as an arranged marriage or that kind of a thing, but we laugh about it now, but we've all gotten to know each other pretty well over the past year. It's been interesting. We all, fortunately, somehow really like each other.
We started out with doing our baking training in the Cheeseboard facility, since we don't have a facility of our own. The Cheeseboard was traditionally closed on Mondays, and someone came up with the idea that maybe they could open on Mondays and have us run it, kind of with a student driver sign in the window so people knew it wasn't exactly them in case things didn't work out well.
Not only do they train in the bakery skills, but they train in group process and consensus decision making, and they're making decisions about their bylaws and accounting practices, and it's a training that encompasses all aspects of the business.
We chose the name Arizmendi in honor of one of the founders of a collective movement in Spain. They have 25,000 workers, they do billions of dollars of business, they have their own factories, their own schools, their own banks. This really inspired us because what we saw as a critical difference between their success and what we see in the U.S. is that their cooperatives work together. They have one cooperative that helps create another cooperative. The finances generated from that cooperative help generate a school or a bank, and then the bank's finances help other cooperatives. And that's what we're trying to do here, is take the success of one cooperative and help feed that into the cooperative next, and the cooperative next, and the cooperative next.
Started Rainbow in a small store on 16th Street, and you know, Rainbow have reached this big store we have here. We are a non-meat store. We don't sell meat in the store, any fish, chicken, beef, whatever, and that is very much to my heart. We have been here about 10 months now, and we came here with about 110 workers, and now we are 150 workers. So it's a big collective. It's quite a big store to, you know, run collectively.
The way it works is that everybody starts at the same wage, and within a year has a certain amount they can make more, regardless of what department they're in, regardless of what their job skills are. Sort of a philosophical thing. We have full medical and dental coverage for everybody who works over 25 hours a week. We have other benefits here for severance, vacation, and what we call PTO, or personal time off.
We have many committees for everything. Let's start at kind of the bottom. You have a department that you work in, and each department has a meeting, and decisions are made at that meeting regarding your immediate workspace or different things like that. Then there's a store-wide steering committee. We elect everybody. We are the ones that pick the board of directors. We pick the steering committee. And then the membership meeting, there's a meeting where everybody who has a vote who belongs to the collective.
I've been very appreciative of being able to be part of the decision-making process, because prior to coming here, all jobs that I had the hierarchy was very clear. There was a person up here, and there was a person down here, and it was pretty clear established as to who was the boss.
If I want to take a day off, I can, as long as I communicate that to everybody, that, you know, it's not call the boss and tell them you're sick. It's call everyone in the office and let them know that you're not going to be there today, and make sure you don't have any appointments you're missing, that kind of thing. And it's nice. Flexibility. It also requires responsibility.
Rainbow was started by a group of people who were into an East Indian religion, and they were vegetarians. It started as like a good idea, and oh, wouldn't it be nice to have good food, but the basis is that this is a business.
This place represents products that people can buy that are alternative to products that they can't get at other stores, in terms of being healthier for your body, healthier for the environment. So I think that's one of the reasons that I like working here, because of what we promote.
We stay away from, you know, preservative chemicals. We try to be as organic as possible. We also try to bring in vegan foods, you know, non-dairy products in the store as best as we can. So that's the policy of Rainbow. So I, as a buyer, try to follow that policy as best as I can. And if I step out the line, there are workers who can say, well, hey, I don't like this product, we should take it off the shelf. So, you know, I get feedback from my co-workers.
In the vitamin department, we had a question about whether to sell shark cartilage, which is an endangered species. So the vitamin department decided not to sell it as a group.
The workers are very idealistic, very passionate with what they believe in the sense of whether it's politics or social conditions, food, the environment, or organic farming. We have always been supportive of that forwardness of social living.
A lot of people work here for different reasons, and some of them come because whether they don't want to work for big corporations, or they're musicians or artists, or going to school, and we're more open to hiring people that are on different kinds of schedules. I think Rainbow is a wonderful place because a lot of people have come here that maybe didn't have a lot of schooling or a lot of skills, and you can learn so much. You can learn how to be a bookkeeper here, or you can learn how to be a buyer. And we have people that are out of high school or from that English is their second language, and they do very well here. We have lots of different cultures involved and ethnic groups, and that causes us to learn about each other.
It's really a big commitment in a collective environment, because you really have to work with other people. There's nobody telling, you know, there's no one person that gets to say, no, he's right and you're wrong, or, you know, you have to talk it out, you have to figure it out, you have to demonstrate it to a lot of people, and people have, more than one person is deciding, so you really have to kind of work at it.
I really love Rainbow. Rainbow has been very good to me, and you know, throughout these 15 years I've worked here, my children, I have 2 children, they have always been at Rainbow, growing up working at Rainbow, and a lot of workers have, you know, their children working here, so it's a kind of family, community kind of spirit.
I got into printing right through Inkworks. So I started here back in 1981. So I've been here over 15 years now. People that work at Inkworks become collective members, and in that sense they become part owners of the shop.
We all make the same hourly wage, and we all have the same benefit package, which consists of medical, dental, and optometry. We're part of the Graphic Communications Union.
When we first joined the union, they said, why on earth do you want to be in the union? You know, you don't want to bargain with yourselves. But it was really important to us because some of us had tried to organize in other shops where we'd worked, and we felt that we were part of the union movement. We also felt like it's important to ensure the same level of benefits that you know, the union movement has fought so hard for. And that we didn't see ourselves as being distinct from the labor movement. We see ourselves as a political project, and so that, you know, in that way we're somewhat different from a lot of other shops or other co-ops. We see ourselves as being a resource for the progressive left community.
The major decisions are made by the group as a whole. Smaller decisions, as far as running the business, it's run like a business, so we have a production manager who deals with the day-to-day decisions around printing, but as far as who gets hired, what direction we want our print shop to take, where we might want to make donations, things like that, it's done in a collective manner where people have a vote.
In a workplace where there are so many skills and there's so many different vantage points on the product, it's a really valuable thing to have that democratic control, to have an equal voice coming from the different parts of the production process.
My opinion is asked on how equipment is bought, whether we buy a certain piece of equipment, which direction we want to take the business in.
I'm working part-time now. We're sharing childcare. So my partner comes in and works doing estimating in the morning, and then comes rushing home and takes over the childcare, and I come in the afternoon, and I often have a meeting when I first come in my role as business manager. I've been here for 23 years, and I've done most of the jobs in the shop.
We went through a number of difficult situations in the last few years. We were somewhat concerned in terms of the economy, how well we were doing, and some of the internal difficulties in terms of some of the dynamics within the shop. But we've been able to overcome those, and we've been able to hire new people that seem to be working really well, and we've been able to keep up with the changes in the technology that at one time seemed so overwhelming.
Working conditions in all print shops are somewhat stressful because of the production pressures, and I don't think we're any exception to that. I think that, you know, and to some extent we all suffer from, you know, the anxieties of anybody who's you know, an owner of a print shop. I think that the extent to which we share responsibility for the work, and we listen to each other's problems, both, you know, personal problems or problems about getting the work out, and that we back each other up, and supportive atmosphere in general. You know, there are ways in which we're a large family.
That this whole concept of a cooperative has a much warmer and deeper aspect to it than I had originally expected. I guess I originally expected a business opportunity. So what I hadn't expected was the family aspect of it, the warmth and the sharing and the day-to-day involvement with the people you work with.
Practically, this place has worked to my benefit in many ways, as it has to many other people. It has helped me buy a house. We're in that process of, you know, after renting all my life, and to have a home and feel that I can ask my family to come over or anything. It's some security, and not only the security, but mostly the willingness to see people give other people a chance, and that's sometimes what it takes.
I think there is a spirit of getting on with the job and figuring out how to make each person better at what they do, so the group as a whole will be better. I think what we're trying to do is create new ways to work and new ways to deal with each other.
We do profit sharing and in-house benefits, so, you know, it can add up to a decent living.
Making $1 million isn't really where it's at. It's having good, honest, fun, loving relationships with your fellow workers and citizens that matters the most.
There are many ways in which we have to struggle to empower people. I think the co-op movement is one way in some situations where people can take control of the workplace and to change, to really restructure the society to make it more truly democratic. I wouldn't want to work any other way than collectively. It's a real important part of my life.